A very good morning to all the distinguished guests on our dais, Shastriji, Mishra Madam, my dear friend Professor Ramasubramaniam, other distinguished faculty, invited guests, panelists, and the students who are assembled here. This is a very important occasion where all of us are gathered specifically for the purpose of discussing sustainability from the perspective of inside out. We are living in a day and age where India is seen as one of the leaders of the world, growing rapidly in terms of economic development at near about 8% GDP growth, where countries across the world are diminishing in terms of their economic development. Over the last 1990 to 2020 period, almost 76 million Indians emigrated from Bharat to different parts of the world. Today, there are 36 million Indians globally living in different countries across the world. If you look at USA alone, almost 22 out of the Fortune 500 company CEOs are from Bharat origin. They are together employing more than 2.7 million employees with a net revenue of more than $1 trillion. If you look at just the motor industry, more than 50% are owned by Indians. And out of the more than 600 plus startups which became unicorns in America, more than 77 of them are run by people from Indian origin. With this kind of economic progress, development, success which India and Indians have received, definitely we have prioritized a lot when it comes to Artha or economic development. And therefore, India has become a beacon light for economies and countries and populations across the world which are looking at making a U-turn in their current state of affairs. And therefore, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yadyat acharati sreshtas tattat eve tarojana sayat pramanam kurte lokastat anuvartate. Whatever example is set by influencers, the rest of the world follows. So, definitely, considering that we got independence in 1947 and today in 2025, we are poised to become the world's third largest economy in the very near future. We are at the cynosure of all eyes when it comes to success, economic success, as they say, Artha. Now, as all of us are aware that in the pursuit of prosperity in a unidimensional manner, the planet has been impacted in very deadly ways. And therefore, all of us are assembled here to discuss why is it that 8.7 million people are dying prematurely because of air pollution? Why is it that 2.3 billion people globally are water distressed? Why is it that the world is producing 2 billion tons of plastic waste every single year, or regular waste, solid waste every year, and 300 million tons of plastic waste? So we are all here to discuss the impact which this prosperity has created, the cost of this prosperity on the planet, on the people's health. And therefore, the three biggest challenges the world is facing today, as we are progressing and showcasing numbers in terms of increase in GDP globally, but as a result of that, as they say, once the party is over, you have to pay the bill. So what we see today is three kinds of deteriorating impacts. First is in the personal lives of people. Things have never been so bad and worse ever in history with respect to personal health and mental health of people. Second is with respect to the impact on the planet at all levels. And third is in terms of interpersonal conflicts, either between people or between countries or nation states. And therefore, the conflict and lack of peace internally, externally, and with respect to the planet is at an all time high, although the economy is also at an all time high. So, therefore, today we have gathered a whole group of illustrious thinkers, scientists, researchers, those who are not only working with their brain but also thinking with their heart, trying to empathize with the overall situation, not going through the solution in silos, but looking at whether we can have a systemic solution to this entire problem which humankind is facing. And therefore, our Honorable Prime Minister Modi, immediately after coming to office in 2014, inspired a very important initiative through the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and that is the LIFE initiative, which is Lifestyle for Environment, which is about how we can actually sustainably deal with food, water, energy, plastic waste, electronic waste, and also one's own lifestyle. So, our conference here today is focused on not just discussing on sustainability, but discussing on sustainability, especially from the perspective of what possible answers and solutions may be there within the Indian knowledge system with respect to providing that solution. So, with that background, I would like to unpack my understanding of the principle of dharma in four parameters. As all of us are aware, dharma, artha, kama, moksha form the fabric and the blueprint for all of our Indian knowledge system's teachings. So we have discussed a lot about artha, and artha occupies the majority of discussion space in all the media channels, in all the various kinds of social interactions. Everyone is obsessed with artha. Success has become synonymous with accumulating artha. And therefore, I would like to discuss what exactly is the understanding of dharma and how it relates to sustainability in today's context. So, the first principle of dharma is what I call as samman, or respect for a power greater than ourselves. A very interesting observation was made by my dear friend Mr. Sridhar Vembu, who is a very out of the box startup successful entrepreneur who's operating out of Tenkasi in Tamil Nadu and created a unicorn from a rural place. So, in one of his interviews, he was sharing that around the town he grew up, right from his childhood, he saw so many temples made out of solid stone. And then, when he would ask his father and relatives what would be the lifespan of those temples, and they would say it will last for more than 1,000 years. So, interestingly, all the temples were built with robust architecture. But then, when he asked, what about the palaces of the kings who made it? So, those palaces are nowhere to be seen because they were not made with stone, they were made with regular stuff which would perish. Which means society in those days was very focused that even the king, who had, in one sense, relative to those ages, absolute power in society in terms of decision making, they chose architecture in a way that they accepted a power greater than themselves and selected materials to develop temples and places of worship which will outlast their own lifespans, outlast even several generations of their life, of their progenies. Which means that even if you go to the Western world, churches would often be the tallest structure. So over the last 100 to 150 years, this whole skyscraper concept has come. But in general, society was always centered around the principle of samman, or respecting a power, an authority which is higher and greater than any of us. And that's supposed to be a very important principle from where all decision making choices which are made from that paradigm starts impacting society. When human beings start thinking that we are at the top of the ecosystem, we are beyond any kind of question, that's where the problems begin. But the fact remains that today we are living in a day and age where human beings are losing control over themselves. We have at least 8.5 million people who are addicted to tobacco and smoking, more than 3.5 million people addicted to alcohol, 35 million people use drugs on a regular basis, 230 million people who are actually engaged in social media addiction, out of which 70 million people are addicts of social media in India alone. And the total cost of all of these mental health disorders is almost $1 trillion again. So therefore, 9 out of 100,000 people globally are committing suicide. So we should realize that although human beings try to stand at the top of the pyramid of modern civilization, the actual reality is quite different, and we are actually quite vulnerable. In fact, many times people also ask me that, Arey, you are in IIT Bombay, how you became IIT? From IIT you became IIT Baba? So, when I was in IIT, one of my friends, he tried to commit suicide. And when we asked him, he told that he would always come the number one topper. But in that one exam, he got the silver medal. He could not handle it. So he just couldn't deal with that situation. So he tried to commit suicide because he was used to or addicted to being number one. So there was a gap between the expectation and reality. And in the same exam, I had 3 or 4 of my friends who failed in 3-4 subjects. They were moving around the campus peacefully, blissfully, as if nothing happened, blessing others also. Just relax. What's the problem? Look at us. So I asked them that how come you guys are so shameless? You have failed in 3-4 subjects. You are moving around the campus peacefully. And they said, अपना philosophy simple है, college में घुसना अपना काम है, निकालना college का काम. So therefore, today, the mental health crisis is revealing to us that we do not have as much control even over ourselves. So we need to recognize that there are some powers above us. And that's what the Upanishad says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magrada kasya siddhanam. When we try to solve problems at our own level without understanding how the entire ecosystem is functioning, we create more problems than the original problem. If you consider just city of Delhi in 2016, they actually consumed petrol and diesel almost 1 billion liters. And out of that, to burn that, you would require at least 4 to 6 billion liters of oxygen. And for that, you would need at least 60 crore trees, which will require 47,000 square kilometers, whereas Delhi NCR is only 147 square kilometers. So just imagine if our paradigm of success is each family should have not just 1 car, but 2 cars or 3 cars. And based on that, if our paradigm of success continues, how we are going to accommodate living in this world? We'll be living in inferno. And so in 1915 period, there was a real case study where Delhi experienced a lot of cobra snakes, a profuse increase in the number of cobra snakes in the city. So the British officer came up with a idea that anybody catches a cobra snake, kills it and brings a dead cobra snake, we will give 25 paise as reward. So he thought that will solve the problem. But he didn't know he was dealing with India. People think out of the box. So when the announcement came, the farmers around Delhi thought it's a great business idea and they started rearing cobra farms. So in a few years' time, they realized what is going on. And then when some of the local people reported that this is what is going on, so the British officer became very upset and angry and he announced, I cancel the scheme. You will not get money. So the farmers became angry. They released all the cobras in Delhi only. So when the solution is worse than the original problem, you call it the cobra effect. And therefore, today, one of the main reasons of our discussion is what kind of solutions we can think of which will not be enhancing the problem, but actually solving the problem inside out. So when there is samman, respect, then you have what is known as sanyam, which is restraint. Nirashir yatachittatma takta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisha. Bhagavad Gita says everything begins with self-restraint. And this is one of the biggest needs for society today. People have lost control over their own habits, over their own thoughts, over their own likes and dislikes. And therefore, this principle of restraint is very important, because only when we recognize that there is a superior power and we learn to respect, we also realize that there are millions of other species also living on the planet. And therefore, if I have to respect others' quota and work within my quota, then I need to have restraint. Otherwise, I will cross the boundary. And therefore, this restraint is very important. And today, the episodes of angry outbursts are at an all-time high. And the social media data is also revealing that angry outbursts actually create more social media traction than any others. So therefore, when I was giving a talk in Yeravada jail in Pune, there was like 500 prisoners in front of me. And I love jail programs because audience is guaranteed. So I gave a lecture and then someone raised his hand and said, I have a question. I said, ask. He said, I want to come on the stage and ask the question. So I got worried. I asked the commissioner of police, who is he? And the commissioner said, he has committed 12 murders. I said, am I going to be 13th? So he came on the stage, asked the question. Then I asked him, why you committed so many murders? He said, when I become angry, I lose complete control. Everything becomes a blackout. And therefore, Krishna says in Gita, this anger is one of the gates to hell. So when there is samman, respect, sanyam, restraint, then there is sneha, which is affection or reciprocation. And that is what is today's topic. How we can have sneha, reciprocation, with not just other human beings, but with animals, with plants, with biodiversity. And when there is reciprocation, then there is sense of responsibility, which is called seva. So that is what Sanatana Dharma principle is all about. Samman, respect. Then there is sanyam or restraint. Then there is sneha or reciprocation. Then there is seva or sense of responsibility. I'm extremely glad that the organizers have brought together a very illustrious group of speakers this morning for sharing wisdom with all of you. Thank you all very much.